let me tell you something. Every millennial knows the unspoken rule of switching lanes when driving behind one of these death traps, log trucks. And that's because of the severe trauma we experienced watching Final Destination 2. Now, I think Gen Z kids that watch this movie are going to toss out every penny they own because of Bloodlines. So, let's talk about it. The story of Final Destination Bloodlines is right there in the title with Bloodlines. This time around, we're following a brand new family that finds out their grandma was able to escape death long, long ago. And in true Final Destination fashion, you should know that if you mess with death's plan, it'll always come back to bite you. So one by one, death comes back, starting with the grandma down her bloodline and exacting revenge and taking the lives that shouldn't have even been there in the first place. The grandma tries to prepare her granddaughter for what death has planned for them by giving her a book that she wrote herself, basically describing a timeline of different events, families, and people that have passed in very weird ways because of death's ultimate plan. Just like every other Final Destination movie, it's about them trying to avoid their inevitable demise. Now, this is the first Final Destination movie in over 14 years, which means as a pro in this franchise, because yes, I really do like this franchise, I need to catch you guys up to speed. These movies absolutely traumatized me as a kid, especially Final Destination 3. It's a franchise that basically plays on the idea of paranoia, that suspenseful feeling of death being right around the corner for almost anyone at almost any time. Now, even just explaining that, it sounds like a pretty scary idea, right? Well, in my opinion, the true highlight of this entire franchise are how creative and gruesome the kills are, with each installment that passes giving us a more gruesome, more creative, and more ridiculous kill. Final Destination 1 probably traumatized a lot of people of flying in airplanes. Final Destination 2, the log truck, we already talked about it. 3 made us terrified of going on roller coasters and tanning beds. If you've seen Final Destination 3, you know exactly what scene I'm talking about. That movie single-handedly traumatized me as a kid, and I will never get in a tanning bed ever in my life. Final Destination 4, in my opinion, is the worst of the franchise. I wouldn't even watch it. You don't really need to. But they were quickly redeemed with Final Destination 5, which honestly had a much better story than it did kills, but kind of ties everything together. Fast forwarding 14 years from Final Destination 5, we now have Bloodlines, which in my opinion has a decent story, but really great kills. Now, at the time of me filming this, Final Destination Bloodlines has a critic score of 93% on Rotten Tomatoes and an audience score of 88%. Those are the best reviews out of any Final Destination movie. For the most part, they actually get pretty crappy reviews. At the end of the day, these movies are not supposed to be these Oscar-worthy masterpieces like Hereditary or Midsommar. In my opinion, these are the kind of horror movies of like the early 2000s, like The House of Waxes or the Freddy vs. Jasons or like the Saws, where you get to put on a fun horror movie with your friends and just kind of wince and laugh and just, you know, have a good time. And in my opinion, Bloodlines delivers with just that. In the past, Final Destination has always really taken itself seriously for the most part. For the first time in the franchise, this movie knows that it's one of those fun movies, not something to be taken too seriously. The characters don't really get fleshed out that much, but they give you just enough to really like one character or really not like another. I feel like you understand exactly why each character is doing what. You have the main character who is someone that's panicking, understanding death's plan, and trying to warn your loved ones while they just call you crazy. You have your comedic relief character, Eric, which honestly is my favorite character in the entire movie because he's the comedic relief. He's someone that not only can show emotion and be serious in some situations, but I kind of saw a lot of myself in him. He tends to make a lot of jokes in very tense moments to help, I think, calm himself down. And I feel like I can relate to that, you know, in some situations the way you cope with things is by making a joke or trying to lighten everyone else's mood around you so it doesn't get so crazy. You have the crazy grandma that has seen it all from the beginning and has always been called crazy her entire life, so she runs away to seclude herself in a cabin that she, you know, guards with weapons and security. And oh, it's Laurie Strode from the newest Halloween 2018 remake. No, sorry, I'm thinking about Sally from the Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where she comes back for revenge by surviving in this guarded area, and that plotline has been done in various different ways that I feel like work with some and don't work with others. In this one, it's not like an icon like Laurie or Nev Campbell or anything like that. It's a character that we're being introduced to for the first time. So there isn't that legacy feeling behind the grandma's character, but you kind of understand the idea of I've been out here in the middle of nowhere protecting my own life so no one else can be around me and death doesn't have a way of getting to me. You have the fun-loving character that is just the most innocent, wholesome person that you would go to war for if anything happened to them. And of course you have Tony Todd, the legend that's been a part of this franchise since the beginning. Now you all probably saw at the beginning of the video that Tony Todd unfortunately did pass away. He comes back in this movie to reprise his role, and this actually was his final role before he passed. I've read on multiple articles, I don't know how accurate this is, I've tried doing research, but for the most part they all say the same thing, that the writers and directors of Final Destination Bloodlines actually let Tony Todd improv his final scene. Now, without giving away too much, his final scene was very emotional to watch because you can tell he was kind of not only saying his goodbye to the franchise itself, but goodbye to all of his fans for the most part. This isn't spoiling it at all because I do think it's a very beautiful message to spread, but his end message was, I'm going to retire and enjoy my life. I urge you to enjoy the life you have right now, enjoy the time we have on Earth, and live it to the fullest, because that's what he's going to do. It was just this really powerful message that, obviously, knowing he's passed just makes it that much more emotional. I had the honor of meeting Tony Todd at a convention back in 2018. He was a very nice person, and I was honored to meet him. I don't have any photos with him. I just went up to his little signing table, and I shook his hand, and I just said, I'm a big fan of your work. He was really respectful and nice about everything, and it just meant a lot to me as a kid that was coming up as a horror fan. He wasn't very rude or anything like that. He just seemed like a very wholesome person. So thank you for letting me take this time and talking about him and his life and how he should be remembered. I urge you all to check out his older movies. He has some great roles, one of them being the original Candyman. It's probably his most iconic, and of course his other roles in the Final Destination franchise. Now, as I said before, the Final Destination franchise is known for their kills. The kills in this movie do not disappoint at all. However, I do have one little nitpick with it. Every kill in this movie is CGI'd. Now, don't get me wrong, they may have some prosthetics that are practical, but it's very, very few. It's not bad CGI for the most part, but it is CGI. I don't think we're at the point in technology where CGI looks so real that you don't know that it's CGI. A lot of these kills in the intro scene that gives you that kind of warm-up of how the tone of the movie's gonna go, a lot of them are just, okay, so that's definitely CGI. They happen so quickly, like in succession from each other, that they just kind of stand out compared to everything else that was going on before. Other than the fact that they look very kind of rubbery at times. I know that CGI has that weird kind of look where when they're, animating an arm moving or something, you can see it really rubbery, almost looking very like toy-like. But I can say that the way they did the kills in this movie with that suspense factor behind it, that Final Destination chef's kiss, they nail it. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there saying that the kills in this movie are ridiculous and they don't make any sense, and for the most part, they're silly and kind of funny at times. To me, that, I think, is when Final Destination is almost at its best. Understanding what the franchise is, that weird idea of, that pencil over there can kill me, or, oh, I can't go to the bounce house because what if it explodes and launches me into space? I'm using really ridiculous examples, but you get what I mean. It's not supposed to be just your average, I got stabbed and I'm dead. It's really supposed to be, oh, look, that light over there sparked, and the spark landed on a piece of wood, and the fire started, and then the smoke detector went off, and the sonar waves pushed the penny off of the table, and the penny lands on a rat trap that launches up and cuts my nose off. I mean, you get what I mean. There are several sequences in this movie that are just edge-of-your-seat suspense, the intro being one of my favorites. But to me, the most suspenseful scene is the backyard party that they throw at the family's house. This is one of those scenes that you see in the trailer, and thankfully it doesn't really spoil anything. And that's the best part about these sequences, is that it always establishes what is going on in the scene. It gives you every single possible way of how things can go wrong, and then it shows you. I like it because I try to predict what's going to happen in those scenes, and I would say maybe half of the time I'm pretty right or close to right about what happens. But the other half where you're like, wait a minute, I didn't even think about that happening, or oh, I didn't even notice that in the background. That, to me, gives me so much entertainment and makes Final Destination a really fun franchise to watch. They throw in a bunch of fake outs. They throw in moments where it's like, oh, they're gonna die. Oh, no, they didn't. Okay, they were able to dodge. No, what about that? Oh, no, they didn't. They dodged that one too. Now, I briefly touched on the story, but let's kind of dig into it a little bit deeper here. Don't worry, I will not be spoiling anything until the end of the video where I talk about the actual ending of the movie. When I saw the first trailer and saw that this old woman had a book containing the history of Final Destination, it made me cringe harder than when I watch my own videos, because I just thought that was a really cheap way of explaining death and everything. The majority of this movie is the granddaughter just going around explaining how the Final Destination franchise works. And most of the time, the movies in the franchise actually call back to previous deaths within the franchise. This one, I feel like, very loosely connects the other movies to this, but it doesn't really mention much of the past, which if you're someone that grew up with the movies like me, it might disappoint you because you want that nostalgic feeling. But at the same time, considering this movie did absolutely amazing, they're definitely going to be making a sequel, I'm pretty sure. I even saw an article saying that they are currently working on a sequel. They're definitely telling a new story, going down in the future, and I feel like the ending kind of hints at that in a way. It hints at what could be the sequel. And the last thing you see in the movie actually is really, really good at setting up almost any possibility for future sequels. Which nowadays, you know, any studio out there making a movie wants to cash in on a brand new franchise at any moment. And I think they can have themselves a very successful franchise with this movie. The directors Adam Stein and Zach Lapovsky, sorry if I mispronounced your names. In my opinion, those directors know exactly what they're doing with this franchise, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for the next installments, hoping that they're a part of those, you know, future projects. The final thing we're going to talk about before I get into the spoiler-free rating is the soundtrack. Now, I'm telling you guys, the song Shout by the Isley Brothers, I don't know how to say their name properly, I'm pretty sure it's that. I used to blast that as a kid and still do to this day, every day. I love that song Shout. It's on my promotional video I made on my Instagram. Quick shout out, check me out. And the scene where they're playing that song is so awesome, it's so badass. I was jumping in my seat. The Final Destination franchise does this clever thing where the songs that play within certain scenes kind of come back or hint at what's going to happen. Very light spoilers for the first couple Final Destination movies, but they've been out for forever now. I would highly recommend checking them out. At the end of Final Destination 3, they all die on a train. What song plays during the credits? Love Train, of course. During the tanning bed scene in Final Destination 3, they play the song Roller Coaster, basically referencing the roller coaster scene from the intro. There are so many examples that kind of are like that throughout the entire franchise, and they did the same thing during this movie as well. At a certain point in the movie, you hear Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire. Now, when you hear a song called Ring of Fire, you know, you're catching on. So not only do I think that they chose incredible songs for the movie, but each song kind of has its own significance that fits within the movie. Okay, my rating of Final Destination Bloodlines, I need to say I love you guys. By the way, the ones that watch these long movie reviews, you guys make my day. I can talk about movies any day and every day with you guys. I've even thought about making a non-ASMR movie review channel, just because, like, you can see the excitement. I want to scream, I want to make jokes that are louder and effects and stuff, but let's get into my rating. I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I feel like if you go in not expecting anything too seriously, you will too. For the first time in the franchise, I think this movie does comedy and horror really well, while still giving us suspenseful edge-of-your-seat scenes and some characters you care about. Final Destination Bloodlines gets an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed the movie. I know a lot of people out there are saying they didn't really like it as much, but again, it's a fun horror movie to have fun with. What did you think of the movie? I would greatly appreciate you commenting down below if you saw it. Give me your full review. Give me your rating. All I ask is that we wait a couple weeks and don't give any spoilers in the comments until we feel like everybody has seen the movie. I personally can't wait to buy that movie and include it in my movie collection and rewatch it with my friends down the line. Okay, the ending, guys. The ending. Spoiler warning, we are giving a little bit of a breakdown on the ending and what I feel like they should have done differently and my theories about how they're going to move forward. If you know anything about the Final Destination franchise, for the most part, every movie ends with the same style. Hooray, everybody, we survived and escaped death. Wait a minute. Why is this happening right now in this moment? Oh my god, here's Death's ultimate plan. Us escaping death was part of the plan the whole time. All the survivors at the end of the movie think that they escaped death, but it really was just part of Death's plan all along. It's like, wait a minute, I wasn't supposed to die then? What if it was Death's plan for me to survive all the way up until this point, and then they all die? So the ending of this one I think was really clever because they had a doctor actually talk to the main character that apparently died and was brought back to life in order to end the death cycle. That was their solution, which has been explored in the past, which is if you die and then get resurrected again, it kind of cuts Death's plan in half and then just kind of stops it. But the main character realizes after talking to a doctor that she didn't really die. All she did was go unconscious and was resuscitated back to consciousness. Which then brings us back to the penny. Now the penny that caused all of the destruction in the intro of the movie, you can see comes back and causes the destruction at the end of the movie. The two main characters that you think were going to survive the movie end up getting crushed by, you guessed it, the log truck. It makes me so happy that we reference the log truck again because I personally think that is the most iconic kill of the entire franchise. Whenever you see a log truck, you think Final Destination. So the fact that we finally got another log truck death in the franchise, and multiple deaths actually, 2 of them, I think was a very nice nod to the fans. And it just goes to show that throughout the entire movie, you're actually seeing that log truck multiple times. If you're paying attention while they're driving, the log truck cuts them off. While they're on the sidewalk, walking down the street, you can see the log truck driving right behind them. Now, it's not meant to be played like a Michael Myers stalker where the truck is this ominous figure. It's more just like a coincidence, you know, and that's what these movies try to portray. That truck was around the main characters for almost the entire movie, and not one of them really thought, that's the way I'm gonna go. So I personally really liked the ending. Let's get into some theories. The theory is that right at the end, that whole death scene was just a premonition of our main character. And people are speculating that the beginning scene of the next movie that comes after this one is going to be the main character saving herself and her brother from that premonition. Now, I kind of like that idea, but the final thing you see in the movie is the penny rolling down the timeline of death that it's caused throughout this entire time. And the final shot you get of that penny is it going down the timeline into darkness, kind of insinuating that the timeline will continue to go and death will follow. That's awesome. That is awesome. I love that open-ended ending, and I think that expands it for a universe where you can make endless Final Destination movies. You don't have to connect them all. You can just nod at the fact that, oh yeah, this happened back in the day. Use the methods of the kills as the callbacks. Using the log truck that traumatized everyone way back in the 2nd movie of the franchise as a weapon in the 6th movie of the franchise worked perfectly. Guys, I've been waiting for this movie to come out for so long. I am so happy I can do this review for you guys. I'm gonna cap it right here. If you're watching this all the way to the end, I love you. You are the reason why I get up in the morning. You are incredible. Thank you. I am sweating with excitement because, I mean, not only is it like 100 degrees in my studio right now because I have to turn off the air, but I just want to binge all of the Final Destination movies again, and I think I'm going to. Once again, let me know what you think in the comments, guys. I appreciate you all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much, and please don't forget to smile. I'll see you guys next time. I don't remember leaving a penny right there. Hold on. Gotta go get this penny.